Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Ron, and today we're going to be going over the most popular weapons voted by you guys for the Scout class in Deep Rock Galactic. So first up, we got the primary weapons here, and we have our 4 categories. 3 of them being the weapons, and 1 of them being I use all of them. So as you can see here, starting out with the GK2, we have 14% pick rate for that. We have a 42% pick rate for the M1000 Classic, 34% pick rate for the Drak 25 Plasma Carbine, and 10% saying that they use all of the weapons. So let's talk about the most picked weapon being the M1000 Classic, and the reasons as to why people picked it. There were several reasons as to why people picked this. One of the major reasons was an overclock that people stated. That being Hipster. The Hipster is incredibly strong. It's one of the strongest overclocks in the game currently. And yeah, it makes the M1000 a spam fire machine if you want to do that. Even if you don't intend on doing that and using it as a focus shot build, it's still more ammo efficient than most other focus shot builds. And it's just ammo efficient in general. You get a ton of bullets, you get a lot of rate of fire, you get half the recoil. The only downside is you lose out on damage, which that can be kind of an issue, but if you build right, it's really not. The M1000 also sports a very nice breakpoint, being 55 damage per shot. So on any difficulty, 1 shot to the head of a normal grunt will kill it. And if you take armor breaking on the M1000 Classic, you can 1-shot, body shot them with your focus shots. So you can also do this with blow-through rounds and punch through potentially 3 grunts. That makes it really strong too. Alright, now moving from the M1000 Classic, let's talk about the Drak Carbine, because it got the second most votes, and this one wasn't too surprising for me that it had the second most votes. I kind of figured that it would kind of break down in this order. I'm kind of surprised at the percentages, because it doesn't seem like a whole lot of people picked the GK2, but the Plasma Carbine getting a third of the votes kind of makes sense. It's a very flexible weapon. It has a good selection of overclocks, which is 100% true. I don't think the Drak really has any bad overclocks, and they are very flexible. You've got ones to set things on fire, ones to get extra damage, ones that are just quality of life overclocks. You can have some status effects like aggressive venting. You can actually have multiple status effects with it, with both fire and electricity. That is a great combination, and it pairs really well with whatever secondary you want. If you want to have longer range, because the Drak doesn't have the most range, it's not bad at long range, but it's not the best at long range. You can pair it with the Crossbow. If you just want more medium to short range, Shotgun and Zukovs work really well with it. It works extremely well against crowds, especially small things like Swarmers. This is probably the best weapon for taking out Swarmers as Scout, because the M1000 Classic really isn't that good at it. It's just not ammo efficient to be shooting at Swarmers. And the GK2 can pick them off one at a time, but it's still more difficult to do than it would just be to spray at them with the Drak, especially if you have impact deflection and splash damage on top of it. That is extremely easy to get rid of hordes of Swarmers. So not too surprising there. GK2 coming in at 14%. That one's a little bit surprising. I figured that this one would get the lowest amount of votes, but I was still assuming it would probably be a bit above 15%, maybe up to 20%, but I guess not. A lot of people who picked the GK2 said that they liked it for a couple of reasons. AI stability engine might be one of them, because you have a laser gun at that point. It's super accurate. They also liked Bolts of Mercy because it's a nice quality of life overclock, and a lot of people just liked it because it was a simple gun. It's pretty straightforward, which I would completely agree that the GK2 is a very straightforward weapon, probably one of the most straightforward weapons in this game. It's just an assault rifle, and it does that job all right. It doesn't have the most amount of damage. It still hits 15 damage, which is enough to one-shot Swarmers on any difficulty, which is nice. And it does do decent damage if you're hitting enemies in the head. If you're aiming for the body, if you take armor breaking, it can still work. So if you don't have the best aim, or if you're running one of the higher rate of fire overclocks, then that can be a pretty decent option. A lot of people also stated that the GK2 just feels kind of underpowered, and there has been quite a few videos going around about that from other Deep Rock creators, which I would kind of agree with. I don't think it's necessarily... I wouldn't really say that the GK2 is a bad weapon. I think it's fine. It's just that it could use a little bit of love. It would be nice to see it have maybe some different overclocks, because a lot of its overclocks are kind of basic. Even though they're nice, most of them are actually pretty good for the GK2. They don't really change up the GK2 all that much. It's still just kind of a basic assault rifle. The other option that I think would be a great improvement for the GK2 is just simply give it some more ammo. If you gave it like 100 more shots, I don't think anybody would really complain about it, because then it kind of fits in this middle ground of still having a decent amount of bullets, being able to take out kind of big things, being able to take out plenty of small things, and you don't have to worry about resupplying constantly. That would be my suggested buff for it, and I think everybody would enjoy that, even people who don't really like the GK2, but that's just my opinion. And then with the 10% saying that they use them all, that's about what we've been getting on average for people saying that they use them all. It's usually about 7 to 15%-ish for each of the classes. Let's move on to the secondaries. For the secondaries, the Boomstick definitely has the biggest lead at 46%. I'm kind of surprised that the Boomstick got that many votes. I love the Boomstick, and it seems like a lot of other people do, but I'm just surprised that it's that much. It's almost 50%. Zukov's coming in second at 27%, the Crossbow coming in at 17%, and then I Use Them All once again coming in at 10%. For these, the Boomstick, a lot of people said it was their favorite for a couple reasons. One being Special Powder, being one of the funnest overclocks in the game, which I completely agree. It is a super fun overclock to use, and it's very basic. It also comes at no downside to the weapon, so there's really no reason to not just throw it on to the weapon. Another reason is that the Boomstick doesn't really have any bad overclocks, with the aside of Double Barrel, where it's just, that one's not good, but all the rest are really good. Jumbo Shells is amazing, Splintering Shells is for the autocannon, but it would be kind of cool on the Boomstick. Shape Shells is also quite good, and the other clean overclocks also really strong too. It also is just kind of a nice weapon that's fairly flexible to build with, because the Boomstick base already has enough damage to one-shot, body shot grunts normally. You can also one-shot headshot slashers, and I think you can with guards too, if I remember right. I think you need to hit most of the pellets, if not all the pellets on the head, so it is inconsistent, but I think that you can do it. It also just hits really hard against anything if you can get close to it, so that's kind of nice. Not too much to say about the Boomstick. I think it's a fairly straightforward weapon. It's just a really good, straightforward weapon. Zukov's coming in at 27%. A lot of people really like the Zukovs, mostly for the massive amount of damage that you can put on them. They are a little bit less flexible than the other two, just in terms of overclocks, because the Zukovs only have 5 for some reason. That being said, they still have some really good overclocks. I don't think they have any bad ones. Embedded Detonators was said quite a few times, which gives you massive amounts of damage to any large enemy. If you want to get rid of a Praetorian, or you want to get rid of an Oppressor really fast, that definitely works. You can also take Cryo Mindlets and take care of crowds, apply the Frozen Sass effect to enemies, which is really good because any of your primary weapons will get more damage then. And the rest of the overclocks are also quite good, especially if you build for electricity damage and you like taking the IFG, because the IFG stacks bonus damage on top of the electric damage status effect that the Zukov get a buff from. So all around really solid. They don't have the longest range. Some people that said that they didn't like the Zukovs was because of their range and their inaccuracy, which is completely fair. The submachine guns just aren't known for their accuracy at long range. I'm kind of surprised that the Crossbow didn't get as many votes as I thought it would, only at 17%, because I've really been liking the Crossbow, although it has seemed to be kind of decisive between players. Either they really like it or they really don't. Of course, there's people in between too saying that it's fine, but they prefer the other weapons, or it's fine and they use kind of everything, which is also with the Use Them All. I really love it with Bodkin Points. Bodkin Points is one of my favorite overclocks in the game now. It's super fun to use, and I think the Crossbow really doesn't have any bad overclocks. Some of them are interesting and more niche. They're more tailored towards specific situations, but they're still not bad. Like, the clean ones are really good. If you take Specialist, that works well on any type of mission. It does have multiple bolt types, which is also pretty useful, especially if you want to be running something like Bullets of Mercy. Then, you know, taking pheromone bolts, taking electric bolts, or taking the chemical bolts all can really help with that. The pheromone bolts in general are really nice for just getting enemies to fight each other and for you to conserve ammo. And the Bolt Shark is really nice if you want to pair it with the Drac so that you have a long range option. And then, once again, 10% saying that I use them all. Yeah, about the same percentage that I would expect. Then we move on to the grenades, which the grenades this time had a landslide. This is similar to the Driller chart. I'm really kind of surprised that it's this high. I didn't think it would be this much. It's still not as high as Driller, because Driller had like 80% just pick rate on one. Maybe it actually had higher than that. It might have been like 85% or something like that. Driller has had the most one-sided one. This one is still pretty one-sided though. 70% saying that they use the cryo grenade, 15% with the IFG, 9% with the pheromone grenade, and 6% saying that they use them all. 6% is rather low for saying that they use them all. That isn't our average right now. Cryo Grenade being the most picked isn't too surprising for me. I'm just kind of surprised that it's by this much, because Cryo Grenade is really good. You can freeze flying enemies and you'll kill them instantly. If you freeze any enemy, they can't really hurt you. You can throw multiple grenades at like detonators to freeze them and kill them so that they don't explode. It has a lot of uses, and it's a fairly safe grenade. It's also really hard to freeze yourself, assuming you're not in the glacial strata, because that can just potentially be a bad thing. But yeah, very flexible grenade and good in pretty much every situation. I figured the IFGs would actually come in more. I was thinking that they'd probably be around 30%, but I'm kind of surprised they're at 15%. The IFGs are the slowing grenades that you start out with. The big appeal to the IFGs, besides the slowdown effect on them, is that they also increase your damage, and they technically put the electricity status effect on any enemy. So anything that gets bonus damage from electricity damage, the IFGs will work with. You also get the most amount of IFGs, which is nice. Anything affected by the IFG will take 30% more damage. If you throw this onto really anything, detonator, oppressor, dreadnought, you can kill them significantly faster than you otherwise would be able to. And then 9% of people saying they like the pheromone grenade. Some of the reasons that were stated as to why they like the pheromone grenade is that it works really well on most maps. You can take care of crowds easy, especially if you manage to throw this into the middle of them, and especially if you can hit some high value targets. Yeah, it's really nice. A lot of people also like to pair this with the pheromone bolts from the crossbow, although I heard that argument kind of go back and forth, or that discussion go back and forth. It wasn't really an argument, saying some people felt like they didn't really need the pheromone grenades because they were going to use the crossbow and use pheromone bolts. And yeah, that makes sense. You can target out specific enemies then, and you do get more pheromone bolts, although the pheromone grenade is a splash effect, so it can affect multiple enemies, so it's a little bit easier. Great thing about the scouts grenades in general, though, that was brought up, is that you can't really hurt yourself or teammates with them. With most other classes, you certainly can. With gunners, you can hurt yourself. Engineer, I guess you kind of can. Well, you can with the plasma bursters and sometimes with the mines. But Scout is the only class that you really can't hurt yourself, aside from potentially freezing yourself with the cryo grenade. So that is another plus. So very interesting breakdown we had this time of Scout. I didn't think that it would be this one-sided or have this many votes leading towards one weapon. They were all the weapons that I kind of expected to win out, but I didn't think that they'd be as much percentage-wise as they were. But that's sometimes how it goes. Thanks everybody for watching this. I really do appreciate it. And thanks everybody for voting on these. I also appreciate that. I plan on having other polls up later. We'll also do this on like the classes. And then maybe I'll do what is the most popular primary weapon that we've already seen. So take like the M1000, the autocannon, the Loki, and the flamethrower and put them all together and see which one wins in that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Special thanks to the supporters of this channel. These are my members over here on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this. And if you'd like to be a part of it, you can. There are links down in the description. Be sure to check those out. Thanks everybody. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye!